I'm working on a grafted buttonhole where the waste yarn was placed for a place marker for a buttonhole on the body of the fabric, right at the edge where the band would be, and on the facing, so that when it is complete, the facing will turn to the inside, and this buttonhole will be, they will be grafted together so that it's one piece and the button can just go through that hole. So what we need to do first is look at the inside of the fabric, and we'll see that the waste yarn is coming towards us this way. I'm looking at it from the bottom up. Our first action is to take this waste yarn and make it go through some strands to go face that way. So in order to do that, I'm going to rotate the piece so that the strands, as they're regularly placed, will be going away from me. So I'm going to turn this around. So that these strands are going away from me. And I'm going to take a crochet hook. I will have a crochet hook. This is sport weight yarn, so it's lighter weight yarn. I'm using a size 2 or C crochet hook. And then I have about an 18-inch piece of project yarn that I'm going to use to graft these together with. All right, the first thing, the strands are going away from me. I want to bring them toward me, and the way that I do that is I find where this strand, the very last leg of the waste yarn, goes in, and I go underneath that little strand there, not the waste yarn, but on the body of the fabric. And then I go straight above it, directly across to the next frown above it. These are all frowns. If you look at it, this looks like a smile, the gray looks like a frown, the pink looks like a smile. So I'm going under frowns. I'm just going to wrap around the waste yarn and pull it towards me, and that way it'll help me position the waste yarn the way it should be. So I have that side done. I have to do this side. I'm going to go in where the last leg of the waste yarn goes in, and that's a frown, and I'm going to go straight up to the next frown and go underneath that strand, wrap around my waste yarn and pull it towards me. So I have that one done. I'm going to transfer over here. This is a little bit trickier to see because this is a stitch pattern, a star stitch pattern, so it's a little bit busier than stockinette. So we'll have to be kind of careful when we look. But if we see where the waste yarn is going in, we shouldn't have too much trouble. So here, the waste yarn is going in here. So that's a frown. And I'm going to travel up. Directly above it is the next frown. I'll take the leg, the waste yarn, wrap it around the needle and pull it towards me. And that one will be done. And then we'll have one more to go, this side. Again, I'm going to go in where the waste yarn, the last leg of the pink waste yarn, go underneath there, go directly above it, and get the next one. And pull it towards me. Okay, so now I'm set up correctly to start to do the graft. To do the graft, I need to have the waste yarn on a fold, the buttonhole places that I marked on the fold. So I'm going to fold this up with right sides together, like that. And then I'm going to fold it away from me so that my index fingers go together. I'm going to fold it like this, so that I can see both the tops and the bottoms of the waste yarn. And the tails are coming to the outside. So it's folded correctly. Now I am going to rotate it. When you get this folded and are you ready to graft, remember your fold is over here, and you can see this is the facing waste yarn, this is the body of the fabric waste yarn. You're going to be connecting these gray loops with these gray loops. So where do we start? We start closest to us where the yarn, the waste yarn is exiting. So it'd be here, then we go across to where the waste yarn is exiting on the other side, other piece. Then we take a piece of project yarn and use it as our grafting yarn, wrap it over the needle, and pull that yarn through both of those loops. You have one loop on your crochet hook. So that's one. We're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5. It'll take us 5. Because here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so we did 1. Number 2 would be closest to us under here, furthest from us under here. Wrap around and pull through all 3 loops so you have one resulting loop on your crochet hook. That's 2. Closest to you under the next, furthest from you under the next. Wrap around, pull through all 3 loops. That's 3. Closest to you under this loop, furthest from you under this loop. Wrap around, pull through all 3. And the last one, closest to you, here's where your tail's coming out in this loop. Furthest from you, where the tail's coming out in this loop. Wrap around, pull through all 3, and you can go ahead and pull that yarn all the way out so that your tail of your project yarn is done. Alright, so we have finished grafting this side of the buttonhole. What we need to do is get the yarn to the other side of the buttonhole and turn the work so that we can see the other side of the buttonhole. So the first thing you do is you take your crochet hook and you stick it between the fabric here so that you can come up this hole, this little gap you have, and grab your yarn and just pull it back through so it ends up on the other side where you're going to be working with it. And you just pull that all the way through, and then you need to turn this the other way so that we can see what we're doing. And here's your yarn on the right, and we are going to join this side of the buttonhole together from the right to left in the same manner that we did the other side. So I'm ready to graft this second half of the strands that go by the waste yarn. So after we flipped it, here we have the grafting yarn on the right side, and on this side we're going to be catching 6 bumps instead of 5. So remember, we had 4 stitches, 5 strands, groups of strands that we went over on the first half. This time there's going to be 6. So closest to me, we'll start here. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see the last one, 6 here on this side. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I pick up my crochet hook and I go in closest to me where the pink waste yarn leg is going in, go across the way, go into the first gray bump where the waste yarn is entering in there, Wrap my yarn around the hook and pull through both of those. I have one loop on the needle. Follow the waste yarn closest to me to find the next gray bump, which is going to be here. Go across the way, follow the gray, the waste yarn to find the next gray bump, which is here. Wrap around and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Follow the waste yarn closest to me to the next gray bump, which is here. And then the next gray bump on the other side, which is here. Notice that I'm picking the bumps that are on the inside of the in relation to the waste yarn. It's real easy to get confused, but you want to stay on the inside here. Follow the waste yarn closest to me, pick up this gray bump here, follow this waste yarn, gray bump here, pull through, again closest to me, follow the waste yarn to the next bump, follow the waste yarn to the next bump, pull through. I think this is the last one. Follow the waste yarn here, go across the way, follow the waste yarn and to here, and you can pull this through. I'll do one more chain and then I'll pull the yarn all the way through, and this side is complete. So we have grafted both sides, this side and this side. Now we can just turn it so that we can see the outside and remove our waste yarn. So just carefully pick that waste yarn out. See if I can just pull this out. There. Okay, I think I grabbed something from the other side, but here is the first part of the waste yarn removed. We can turn it over to the facing and take out this waste yarn. And there's our buttonhole. Nicely grafted. That's the facing side. This is the body side. It looks very nice.